Yo, hell yeah. Wyatt begins in like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yo, welcome to Wyatt. And I'm your host, Wyatt O'Brien Evans. Grrr, woof, goddammit, woof, 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 woof. Hi, to all my YouTubers out there. If you like what you hear, if you like what you see, just click that subscribe button at the bottom of your screen. Just click it. Click it, click it. I love to click it. Yeah. Now, one of the major goals of Wyatt is to shine a spotlight on and present a platform for gay SGL, same gender loving authors. So therefore, I'm proud and excited to welcome Mr. Robert A. Karl, the insightful, intriguing, and exciting author of the Clubbed series of novels. His new release is called Clubbed 3, Darkness and Light. It's the final installment in that Club trilogy. So y'all, let's get it on! So without further ado, Wyatt welcomes author extraordinaire Mr. Robert A. Karl. Talk at me, how the hell are ya?
Hey Wyatt, how's everything going? Everything's great here, and I want to start off by saying welcome to Club Sanctuary, my little own version of a club right here at home. So whenever I get the urge to go clubbing, I have a choice. I can go out to a club or I can just walk out to my living room.
Well, Mr. Karl, aren't you special? I'm telling you.
Well, we all know that's true.
Well, listen, I am so glad to have you on Wyatt because we're going to talk about your brand new work titled Clubbed 3, Darkness and Light, and that's the final installment in your Clubbed series of novels. So tell me first, how does it feel to have achieved this major milestone?
If I had thought 3 years ago that I would have 3 books written and completed and published, I mean, really, I feel so proud of myself. I feel proud about the story that I'm telling. I love the characters. I love the situations that they're in. And I love the messages that I'm trying to give to people, which bottom line is, it's cool to be gay. It's fun to be gay. I'm gay. If you're gay, that's great. If you're any member of the LGBTQ community, be who you are. Don't listen to the people who tell you that you don't fit in or you're a problem or whatever negativity they have to say. I know that not everything that happens in my books is positive, but the overall message, I believe, is positivity about being gay and proud and accepting of who you are. And I couldn't be happier having written these 3 books. I have to tell you, I am really proud of myself for doing it, for seeing it through, and for accomplishing something, accomplishing the goal that I set out for myself.
Well, you know what, Robert, you really did that. And you are one prolific author because I believe that you've published all 3 novels in the space of 2 years?
Right. Well, one was in 2021, then 2022, and then 2023. So really that's a 2-year time span that they've been published in. And I've been busy. But you know what? I love writing these stories. I just love it.
Well, you know what, man? I'm going to talk about your writing a little bit later, but I will tell our audience right now that your enthusiasm definitely punches through Clubbed. So tell me, Mr. Karl, tell us rather the synopsis of the Clubbed series.
All right. The series really follows the 2 main characters, Joey and Henry, basically through 30 years of their lives. And during that time, at the beginning, Joey inherits some money and he moves to Philadelphia, and he actually inherited a building as well, and he turned this into Club Sanctuary, which was kind of his dream. Along the way, he met Henry, who was the second main character, and they developed a relationship, and they grow throughout the series. You know, when they start out, they're teenagers and early 20s. And as 30 years go by, you know, they mature, they run into different obstacles along the way, not the least of which is the AIDS pandemic, which is taking place during a large part of the series, and how people deal with that, how the story actually begins before AIDS ever developed. And one of the messages I want people to know is that there were gay people before AIDS. There was a lifestyle, a culture before any of that happened. And then when we were confronted with that, how we went about dealing with it. Because as you know, it was a very difficult time. It's still difficult, but you know, it's not like it was at the height of the pandemic when there was no cure, there was no vaccine, there was nothing, there was no treatment. But anyway, they develop their relationship and they bring along a group of friends, and all these stories interconnect. And I think they interconnect very nicely. I really like the way these stories come together, where, you know, these homeless teenagers that are in a homeless shelter and they meet, and later on, they actually affect the lives of Joey and Henry. So you don't necessarily see that at the beginning, but as things progress, everything comes together, and the story, I think, comes to a beautiful conclusion, if I say so myself. And I want to say, when I was writing this, I never saw that conclusion coming. It literally wrote itself because I had a different ending in mind. But as I was writing, you know, I don't know how it is for you, but for me, the characters kind of take over. And they took me in this direction. And I felt like this was a logical way to end the story. I think it's a beautiful ending. And while everyone might not be happy about it, and let me just leave it at that, it ends on a positive note. And that was really important for me, because one of my friends told me, oh, you know, everyone should die at the end. I'm like, no, that's not the message I want to send here. So
fatalistic. Oh my God.
But the feedback has been really cool. There's been a lot of interesting comments that people have made, and I really appreciate hearing from readers.
Well, my audience, before I go further, I'm going to say two things. So let me tell you something. You know what? I have to do that at least once during the show, because
well, I would be disappointed.
Exactly.
If
it makes you feel so good, Robert. Two things I must say is that I applaud you for having a racially diverse set of characters. And number two, I found myself gravitating towards Henry, who is African American, because Henry was the name of my dad. Yeah, you know, in real life. And my dad was Mr. Tough. And Henry is like Mr. Dom, Mr. Dominant, right? And we're going to get into Henry a little bit later. But what I will say right now is that the entire series, man, is acclaimed, is really resonating with people. Here's a review that I found, and I'm going to read it, and I quote, says something like, the way in which Mr. Karl has woven together fiction, the diversity of the queer community, and highlights each of the multifaceted character stories while being embedded in history makes it not only entertaining, but a text that shall live on well beyond its copyright, end quote. So look, don't break your hand patting yourself on the back, but what do you think about that?
When I hear things like that, it just makes my heart sing, really. Like to know that someone really appreciates the story, appreciates the characters. And I really set about quite consciously to create a diverse set of characters, but not because I wanted to do something that was like, uh, expected or politically correct, but it reflects my life. That's how my life has been. I've known so many people from so many different backgrounds and so many different areas and so many different races. And I embrace that, and I always have. And I'm so disappointed when people don't share that with me, but I'm overjoyed when they do. And I want to spread that around because to me, that is how life should be. That is how my life has been. And I thank God for that because I don't want to live in one of those sheltered little, you know, worlds where everyone is like me. Because you don't get to experience or appreciate the wonderful diversity around us. And diversity really is a good thing. And I've been blessed to know so many people that are way different than I am, have been brought up in such different environments, and they've made me see and appreciate the world so much more than I ever would have if I had stayed in my little, suburban neighborhood where my parents lived. And I love you, Mom and Dad, but I'm glad I left.
I
You know what I mean?
understand. I
Right.
can.
But that reviewer, that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing really makes me
Mm-hmm.
happy. Sometimes I read reviews and I literally cry. I literally cry. They make me feel so emotional that people appreciate the work. And the best thing people say to me is when they say, I think of the characters as real
Uh,
people.
mm-hmm.
And I have one friend right now who's so, so he just finished Club 3 and he's like, he's just very emotional about what happened, and
Mm-hmm.
he just believes in them as real people. And I'm just going to add, this is something I really consider to be an honor. He's writing a fan
Oh.
fiction piece about two of the
Mm-hmm.
characters, and they happen to be Aloy and John Dee. And Aloy and John Dee are the two young homeless teenagers who later on meet up in different circumstances. And he is reimagining what their lives could be like in the same setting where I
Mm-hmm.
left them. But I think that's really cool for somebody. Number one, they care about the characters that much that they're thinking of them outside the box. And two, that they're actually expressing their point of view and expressing themselves in writing. And I think writing is such an experience that more people should
I agree.
participate in because we need more stories about us and by us. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
think. There can't be enough. And when I hear people say, oh, you have that show, so that ought to be enough, it's
No,
never enough. It's never enough. So I'm really pleased about this. And he's been reading little segments to me, and it's just beautiful what he's been reading. I'll be honest.
that is absolutely wonderful. And one of the greatest compliments that an author can receive is being told that his or her characters are real light, are real people. Um, that is just that makes your heart sing. It makes your heart. It's like Tito, give me a tissue, as Michael Jackson would say. You know what I'm saying? But
or or we could talk about Wes
yes, we
Antonio.
can. But that's a whole nother show. Because listen, the focus is on clubbed. And let me
That
just say this before I dig into your background. Um, I'm not going to give away the ending. People have to buy the book, Club 3, Darkness and Light. But I was really thrown with the ending, with something happening to a particular person. I was shocked, and I'm saying to myself, why? Why, Henry? Why did it have to happen to Henry? Why? But we'll talk about that later. Anyway, what I want to do now is I want to take you through the corridors of time so we can learn your backstory, because our audience is nosy. We want to know these things. So, where we...
I love a nosy audience.
Don't you just love it? Don't you love it?
I do.
So, where were you born and raised?
I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I was raised in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, which is the capital city, about 100 miles away from Philly. But I am much more of a Philly-type person than a Harrisburg-type person, because Harrisburg, it is a city, but it's a small town. And I was raised in the suburbs, and it suffocated me. It really did. First of all, I went to Catholic schools. Talk about being suffocated.
Yeah.
Well, but it was my choice to go to Catholic school, but I didn't know any better at the time. I thought, when you're raised a Catholic, you believe blah, blah, blah. And then later on, something goes off in your head. You go, oh, yeah. That's not really for me. So anyway, I moved back to Philly the day that I graduated from Penn State University. I stopped to say hello and goodbye to my parents on the way, because from State College to Harrisburg to Philly. And I never looked back. I loved everything about Philadelphia, because back then they had an area called the neighborhood. There's still technically a neighborhood, but it's not like it was back then. Back then, literally, I could spend years without seeing a family with children. There were none there in Center City, Philadelphia. They all lived out in the suburbs. There were either old people or gay people, and that's who you saw. And then people who came into the city for business. So, and then they would leave, at 5 o'clock. Anyway, I decided to go into the field of education. I spent 30 years as a teacher. I had various roles. I taught in elementary school, middle school, high school. I taught at university. I taught at Temple University. And that really was very fulfilling for me. I was good at it, and I enjoyed it. And those are two really important things to think about when you were considering what you want to do with your life. And here I am. I'll be honest. When with everything with AIDS and all the kinds of things that happen, I never ever dreamed that I would be here this many years later, lounging in San Juan, Puerto Rico.
I'm jealous.
With an ocean view from my balcony, and enjoying life so much. And then when I thought about, what happened? The pandemic started. And I had been thinking about these stories for a very long time, but I had never written them down. And I said, you know what? I'm going to be here by myself. And it's time to sit down and write some of these things. And that's how we came to Plugged, The Story of Gay Love, Trials, Tribulations, and Triumphs. And that was book 1. And I sat down literally and just wrote it. And there was no hesitation. There was never a day when I sat down and said, I don't know where the story is going to go. It just went. And I don't say that to be like exaggerating. I'm not trying to make it sound like writing is an easy task, because you have to actually put effort into it. It is work. But for me, it came quickly, and I'm going to say easily, because I had these stories percolating, and I was really glad that they came together into a coherent story. So that was the trick for me, turning these various characters, putting them together. And that's where I came up with the idea for Club Sanctuary as a way to center all of the stories. So rather than, just this person is over here doing this and another person is over there doing that, the way to bring them together as a community, which very much happens in our community, is people go to clubs. And that's where you meet people. That's where you build. For me, I build a sense of community. I build a sense of family by meeting people, often at clubs. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay. We're going to get even more into that story, but I'm not going to let you deny me my favorite question. So what we're going to do is go back a little bit back, because here's my favorite question that I like to ask my guest. What was Robert like as a little boy, a little nipper? Give us 3 characteristics that best describe you.
I was intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
I was like the class brain, if you will. The one that knew all the answers, the one that did all the homework. And so that was number one. Number 2 was I always knew that there was something different about me, always. And from the youngest years, my earliest memories, I didn't know that I was gay, because I didn't even know that word, but I knew that I wasn't like everybody else. And the third thing I would say is that I was kind of driven. I was very interested in always, I was motivated. I wanted to be like number one, not in things that I wasn't good at, like in sports or things like that. I was terrible at sports, but I wanted to be the top scorer in the test. And I wanted to be the person that could answer all the questions. I was inquisitive. I read so much. I loved to read. I read a lot of history. And really, I'm glad about that, because it gave me a good background for things and a way to understand the world around me. But yeah, I really wanted to be the very best that I could be. And I know I'm not perfect by any means at all, but I wanted to be the best me that I could be. So I think I wanted to be my authentic self. It was a struggle, but I think I actually sort of achieved that. I think I am my authentic self, because I express myself. I don't hold back. I treat people with civility. I'm not like these people who, are nasty and mean to other people. But if I disagree with someone, I will let them know, and I will let them know why. So, because I stand on my principles. I don't stand with whoever, is the loudest mouth, or whatever the current rage is, or whatever the current, thing to be. I have principles, and I absolutely stand up for them all the time.
Well, Robert, we need more people like you. Seriously, we truly, truly do. Okay, now we're going to focus entirely on clubs. Question: I believe you said that losing many friends to the AIDS epidemic dramatically altered your world. Did that play a huge impetus in writing the club series?
Absolutely, yes. I wanted to write the stories that I knew about people who are no longer here to tell their stories. So while everything is fictionalized, that doesn't mean it's completely from my imagination. I was inspired by many people, and it's sad how many people never got to meet their full potential because they died from a virus, and they died so quickly and they died horrible deaths. And I was there and it hurt me very much. So I wanted to keep some of these people alive by writing some of their stories. And it's a tribute to them. My books are a tribute to the people that I knew.
That is so, that's profound. Okay, let's get into Club 3, Darkness and Light. Tell us the story. Of course, it picks up from volume 2. So tell us the story. Tell us how Joey and Henry, the main characters, evolve.
Well, first of all, at the end of Club 2, Joey and Henry were married, but they had an agreement that they wanted to keep their relationship fresh, so they would bring in other guys to have fun with. But they had an agreement that they would only play together. And at the end of Club 2, Joey violated that agreement, and he cheated on Henry. And Henry walked out. And that was the end of Club 2, when Henry just left. And then for Club 3, it actually, the very first chapter takes us back in time, because Club and Club 2 were all written with Joey as the narrator, so it was always his point of view. I switched that up in Club 3, and I found that really liberating to do, by the way, to have these different voices speaking rather than always Joey. So Joey had described meeting Henry as just a chance encounter in the park. Henry just walked up to him one night, said, "Hi, let's go for a drink." And they went out up to a black bar in North Philly and met Bebe and these various different people. But anyway, in Club 3, I open it up with Henry's point of view of their meeting. And it ends up that Henry had spent a few days stalking Joey, following him around the park, trying to meet him, but not having success. And then when they finally met up, then things developed from there. But I wanted it to show that stories have different perspectives. And Henry's perspective was quite different. Now, Henry was upset with Joey, of course, and he takes action to try to make sure that Joey will never stray.
Yes, he does. My audience, yes, he does.
Right. Well, he gets quite strict with Joey, and Joey Joey agrees. There is nothing non-consensual. Henry gives Joey a choice. Do you want freedom or do you want discipline?
So we're talking S&M here.
Well, we are, but I don't get it. But S&M covers a lot. I'm just going to leave it as Henry keeps Joey on the short leash.
Hey, my audience, let me tell you something. It's a short leash. It's a short leash.
But again, it was important to me that it was Joey's choice.
Well, you know what? Yeah, I love the way you did that, because you didn't want it to go into intimate partner violence and abuse. You wanted it totally consensual from both sides. And I'll just say this to my people out there. The sex scenes are just, as a writer of sex scenes, of erotica, I'm telling you, it's hot.
Well, I try not to hold
Well,
back too
you
much.
didn't.
When I was considering writing sex scenes into the books, I thought about what do I want to read? And when I'm reading a book, and I love all kinds of literature, but I sometimes want to hear like the down and dirty.
Oh,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? I want to hear the specifics about what's going on. Don't hold back and don't use euphemisms and don't use, it faded away into the fade to black, as it were, or a train going through a tunnel.
Yeah, I remember that. Those old movies, yeah.
Right, old movies. When people were having sex, they would show a train going through a tunnel, and then you knew what was really happening. I tell you what's really happening. I lay it out for you. But again, that's an integral part of being human, not just being gay, but being human for me. And these are, they're adult stories. They're not written for kids. They're not, and so I wanted to make sure that I wanted to write gay novels with gay sex in it. So that's
And
that's where my
and
head's at.
Robert, you do it really well. And the thing of it is that Clubbed has so much substance to it that the sex scenes are just the icing on the cake. Just
Thank
the
you.
icing on the cake. So
I do cover some heavy topics. I
yeah,
think.
you do. You do. So why did you explore the discipline, I'll say the discipline angle?
Well, first of all, it fit into the story of Henry wanting to make sure that Joey didn't cheat on
Right.
him again. But it also, I'm just going to say, I've been involved in those kinds of relationships. I've been in, that dominant, submissive kind of relationship, and so I know it. I know some things that can happen there, and I want to express myself in these stories as much as I want to express others. So a lot of things that happen to many of the characters are things that have actually happened to me. I may embellish some, of course. I'm not writing, a history or writing a diary. I'm not writing a memoir. I'm writing a novel. But I like those kinds of relationships, and they are, I won't say they're prevalent in gay society, but I think that there's a fair number of people who engage in that people can relate to it. And if not, maybe you'll learn something.
And actually, Henry doing that showed his vulnerability because Joey hurt him. He's in love with this guy, and in his head, he's saying, well, you know what? I'm going to do something to make sure that I keep this guy. And because I'm hurt, there's got to be some consequences.
Right. And Joey, for his part, wants a strong man. He wants a strong man. Throughout the entire series, Joey has gone along with Henry, no matter what Henry wanted, and Henry, to his credit, tried to be more of equal partners. He wanted to be able to trust Joey. He wanted to, enjoy that equality, but he recognized that didn't really fit what Joey wanted or needed. And at the same time, it didn't really fit what Henry wanted or needed, because we find out that Henry all along wanted to be in complete control, but he was willing to give some of it up because he loved Joey so much, and he was afraid of losing Joey, and Joey was afraid of losing Henry. So, that kind of bond between people, there's a lot of give and take. And so I played around with that through their relationship, but you know how it ended up with the short leash.
Okay, yeah, it's a short leash, everybody. It's a short one, let me tell you. It's a truncated leash. But anyway, okay, now, da 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 da, Wyatt's review. Let me tell y'all why you should buy this book. I loved it. I love Club 3, Darkness and Light. Here we go. First of all, it's masterful, nuanced, detailed writing. It's like you're a fly on the wall. Your senses are being activated as a reader. The cast of characters is racially diverse. The reader is constantly engaged. I mean, the story starts off with a bang, draws you in, and holds you tight. The prose is relaxed and conversational. There is quality soapy goodness, delicious angst, dramatic tension. This new work is poignant, sublime, bittersweet. And there's a shocking ending, which I'm going to talk to Mr. Karl about later, because I don't know if I like it or not. So we're going to talk about it later. But anyway, Club 3, Darkness and Light paints a vibrant portrait of the diversity and nuances within the LGBTQ plus community. So, Mr. Karl, did you like my analysis?
I love it. I think you really understand the story, and I appreciate your comments because I put my I put my heart and soul into this. I really did. And I'm very pleased with it, but I'm even more pleased when other people enjoy it. So I appreciate everything that you had to say about it, and I'll be honest, I think your review is on point.
Well, my God, aren't we modest? Okay.
Well, this is not the time for
That's
modesty.
true. You're absolutely right. Okay, now, you're going to do a couple of readings from Clubbed, right? All right.
I am. So, if I may, I'm going to begin with a reading from Clubbed 2. And first, I'm going to read a little disclaimer that is given at the beginning of almost every book. With the exception of public figures, any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. So with that being said, Henry and Joey are watching TV. Henry set up the VCR to record that show in case we ever missed the broadcast. He's talking about a show where a person is talking about living with AIDS as opposed to dying from AIDS. To us, the message was both welcome and necessary for our community. As the show ended, I reached for the remote, ready to switch back to MTV, hoping to catch the latest Madonna video. Henry slapped my hand away. Not so fast, he told me, wanting to see what show came on next on that station. If I had switched the channel, we might have never known that a new program was being launched on this public access channel. But the moment we heard the introduction, we knew who it was. Listen up, everybody. This is your host, the one and only Wyatt, here to bring you a brand new show focusing on some important issues of the day. Each week, I'll have guests from our community. Yes, I said our community on the air to talk about what's up. If you had ever heard Wyatt speak, you would never forget that voice. It commanded your attention. Deep, smooth, booming, and always upbeat. And of course, we recognized him as the photographer who had published photos of our butts more than a few years ago. On the set of the new TV program, Wyatt had a few of his photo books on display in the background. And yes, there was the book where Henry and I had first exposed our backsides to the world, Big Butts. We were both laughing when we saw that. Our laughter quickly died down when we heard Wyatt introduce his first guest and the topic for the show that night. The guest kept his identity hidden, appearing as a shadow behind a curtain, and his voice was altered to protect his identity. Wyatt asked probing questions while at the same time assuring his guest that he wasn't required to answer anything that made him uncomfortable. The topic was intimate partner violence and abuse, which is an affliction in the LGBTQ community, but often ignored and rarely discussed. Wyatt's guest was treated with dignity and respect as he told the audience about his experiences being in an abusive relationship. Henry held me close as we watched the show, reassuringly rubbing my shoulders. As I listened, I wondered how many of the customers at Sanctuary went home after a night of clubbing to a place where they were treated with disrespect or even had to deal with physical abuse. While at the club, it's so easy to pretend that all of us feel safe in our environment. So easy to forget the problems that awaited us on the outside. Wyatt was doing a true service for the community by providing a forum for us to be reminded about issues that could hit any of us hard. I leaned back into Henry's body. Thank God I have you here to take care of me, I whispered. So that was like a tribute to you.
First of all, I really appreciate that. And on a lighter note, I'll say, Tito, give me a tissue. Circa Michael Jackson, but in all seriousness, I like to joke, but in all seriousness, I feel honored, and I'm very serious about that. Thank you so much.
People inspire me, and I want to put that into my writing, and you do inspire me. Your work in this field is so amazing, and it's so important, and I just had to put that in there just as a way to show my appreciation for what you do. So thank you. Are you ready for Club 3?
We're ready.
All right. In Club 3, Henry is on his way. Henry is sitting in the park waiting for Joey to come to meet him. The first time they're going to see each other after Henry had walked out. So Joey's very nervous. He doesn't know what Henry's going to do. Deciding what to wear tonight was a major decision. I thought about wearing the tux I wore when we married, but then I worried how I would feel wandering back home by myself in such a sentimental outfit if he ended up rejecting my attempt at reconciliation. Casual attire? Then he might think I was being casual about my apology. Slutty? No, that might remind him of what caused this entire problem, my slutty behavior. Digging through my closet, I wanted to find something that was both comfortable and would send the right message. Do straight people have problems like this, I wonder, or is it just me? I took a cab to Rittenhouse Square, anxious, humbled, a little ashamed. I got out at Broad and Walnut Streets, opting to walk the last few blocks, trying to calm myself. Approaching the entrance, I felt heavy, like I could barely move my legs. I wondered where was that happy, confident young man that I used to be. Unsure of myself, I thought just momentarily about turning around and walking away. Pausing in the shadows between the lights casting down from the street lamps strewn haphazardly along the walkway, I looked down at myself. I knew I looked elegant. Perhaps it was a bit much for a casual stroll in the square, but this was anything but a casual affair. The arc of my future hung in the balance of Henry's decision, whether he would take me back or not. My mind had been made up from the moment he caught me in my infidelity. I wanted him. That was the all-consuming thought in my mind since that awful moment in time. A small tear in my eye caught the light streaming from the nearby lamp, causing a rainbow that was visible only to me. A private rainbow. It's a sign, I thought. Each color seemed to reflect something about our love, an aura that must mean something. Red. That was our passion. My undying love for Henry, which I now worried might be rejected. The color of blood, rushing from my heart to every part of my body, now pounding in my head as I dreaded this meeting. Orange. Our optimistic outlook when we joined together to accomplish something. The energy that exuded from Henry heightened when we worked together as a team. Yellow. The joy that Henry brought into my life, bringing light as literally as the sun brings light to the earth. But it's also a color of caution. I have to remember that I could lose everything if I continue to act irresponsibly. Green. For the growth we experienced during our years together. Henry had been the impetus for my growth, my maturity, my better understanding of the world and our place in it. Blue. The color of inspiration. There is no doubt in my mind that Henry is my inspiration. Everything I do is for him. Why did I put myself in this position? Why did I betray the one man who inspired me in ways that no other man possibly could? indigo, the color of wisdom, possibly one of Henry's greatest traits. It was his wisdom that guided us. Certainly not mine. I was the fool. I needed Henry to guide me. What will I do if he turns me away? I cannot even bear that thought. Violet, royalty. Henry is my king. I worship him, I adore him, I obey him. Each color reminds me of why I need to fix this problem. As the tear falls from my eye, the colors of the rainbow melting into nothingness, I worry that our relationship might meet a similar fate, melting away out of my grasp, unable to maintain the steady force that I needed in my life. I was more afraid right now than ever before. So I'm sorry. I get emotional with these characters.
No, I mean, first of all, Robert, that was so powerful. I mean, because you perfectly expressed all of the emotions and feelings that Joey was going through. And yeah, you know, we authors, our characters become our babies. They become part of our soul. And they're so real to us. I totally get it.
Well, thank you. And I'm sorry for being an emotional wreck at times.
No, I mean, you have every right to, because, you know, writing a book takes a hell of a lot of work, and it's a lot of emotion, a lot of effort, a lot of introspection, and it can actually change you at the end. So, you know, you're just being, as Oprah would say, you're just being authentic.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate you giving me the space to, you know, and the opportunity to read. I think that's a beautiful passage. I really love that part. And so I wanted to share it with your listeners.
I'm so glad you did. Why do you self-publish?
I self-publish so that I have complete freedom to say what I want to say. I don't want some editor to come along and tell me, oh, Henry can't be that dominant. You know, Henry can't do this, Henry can't do that, or so-and-so can't say something, or why don't you, you know, why do you have an Asian character? You know, why? You know, I want to write what I feel, and I want to write the stories my way. And so the way to do that is to self-publish, and I own everything. I own the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the good parts, I own it. If you think there's a bad part, I own it. I don't think that there's any bad parts, but people have different opinions. I already know that, and that's okay. But I own it. I wrote it. I did the editing. I did the publishing. I did everything. So here I am, you know. That's why I do it.
And I respect you because you're spot on. That's why I self-publish as well, because that way you have control. You do.
Right.
Will there be a club for? I mean, personally, I think that you could continue on with the story. So what say you?
Well, I'll tell you in a word, no, there will not be a club for. But I already told you about the fan fiction being written. That same friend told me that I could spend the rest of my life writing books where I take these same characters and just put them into different stories. And that is something that I could do, but I probably won't. Because I'm going to tell you, I'm happy with the story the way it is. I really am. I think it came to a good conclusion. Yes, it could go on. Absolutely. But there's also a time for a story to end. And I am really happy with these 3 books. I think they tell a good story. And the thing about, you know, I still want to continue writing.
Sure.
But I'm thinking of just creating something different. You know, I love what I created here, but you know how it is when a TV series goes on for series number 5, or, you know, seasons number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, the, the writers are getting more ridiculous with the
Jumping the shark.
stories. You know, exactly. They're jumping the shark, which was Henry Winkler as the Fonz, being in Hawaii, jumping. That's where that came from. You know, the writers were like on Happy Days. They were out of ideas, I guess. Well, let me take that back. I don't know, but that's where it came from. Something ridiculous and ridiculous storyline, and I don't want to go there. But I have lots of stories to tell. And so I'm happy to write, like maybe I'm actually thinking of doing a contemporary story, and I'm thinking of doing a contemporary story about someone my age and what it's like. And, you know, creating a story about that, because it's not bad. You know, it's not what I expected. But it's also not all good either. So, you know, people can be mean.
Oh, yeah.
You know, people can make mean comments. I just had a mean comment made on Instagram the other day. It was a comment to a comment that I made on someone else's account, so it didn't ever show up on my timeline. But, you know, if you don't know something, like someone I don't know is drawing a conclusion about me that they don't know, and they have to throw in their old man, I'm not offended by being called an old man. I am an old man. I'm an old guy. You know, I've been around for a long time. I've seen a lot. You know, these people that say Joe Biden is too old, and Joe Biden says, well, you know what? I'm experienced and I'm honest. You know what? I say, that's good for you, Joe. Good for you. So, but that's what I'm thinking of doing. Something along the lines, but it could be anything. I know for sure I'm going to take 6 months and just think about it, think about what I want to do, jot down some notes, which is exactly what I've done for these books. But once I get the idea and I start writing notes in earnest, then I know I have a story to tell.
Robert, what is your message for young authors, particularly LGBTQ plus authors, and would you collaborate with and mentor a less experienced author?
My message is tell your stories. I said it earlier, we don't have enough stories about us. We don't have enough stories about our community. I talked about certain people and certain characters, but there's a universe of us out there. There are so many people with so many different perspectives. And it doesn't matter that it doesn't have to be based on your life. It can just be based on your imagination or what you want the world to be. But tell your story. Tell it in your voice. I want to hear from young, diverse authors out there who are thinking about writing, but maybe haven't taken that step. And please do. Because I'm telling you, I want to read what you're going to write. And as far as mentoring, I'm all about mentoring. Like I told you, I was a teacher. I know how important it is to educate people and to mentor them and support them. Collaborating is another thing. When I write, for me, it's a very personal, solitary experience. I am all about my story. And I know the nature of collaboration is that there's give and take. And what did I say? Why do I want to self-publish? Because I want to tell it my way.
He does it his way.
So I'm not saying I can't. I do get along with people, but I don't want to sit and argue about a story. I don't want to argue with anyone about the direction that it's going in. I really want to do it my way. I'd be happy if someone who is inexperienced in publishing wants to contact me and say, you know, how do you get started? What are some of the pitfalls that you ran into? What kinds of things did you find out that I should know before I start? And I'm happy to share that. Sharing a story, I'm not. I'll never say no, a definite no, but it's not something I'm
that's a no.
looking.
Listen, Mr. Selfish, that's a no, and you know it's a no.
You won't see my name with anybody
No,
else
you
on the
won't.
cover.
No.
As
No.
author. No.
Listen, I don't blame you. But anyway, what's on tap for you for the rest of 2023? Like appearances, projects, that sort of thing.
Well, I am going to be doing an interview with a magazine that's coming up, so I'll announce that shortly. I'm not going to give any details, but that's coming up. That's very exciting for me to do. That's a way to reach a totally different set of readers, a totally different audience. And I'm looking forward to things like that. I do my promotions on Instagram and Twitter, etc. And I do want to say that I enjoy not only promoting myself, but I do enjoy promoting other voices in our community. So I do try to highlight sometimes when I get a book in the mail, and I'll post a picture of it and let people know I'm reading it. I don't review everything that I read, and that's probably a mortal sin for an author to say, because we're always saying, if you like what you read, give us a review. And I do sometimes, but I don't all the time. So if an author is sitting there thinking, well, you didn't review my book, so that means you didn't read it. Well, that isn't necessarily true. I just want you to know. I just want to put it out there. I'm human. I am human. I have my frailties and I have my things that I don't do 100% correct. And that's probably one of them. But I am looking forward to spending time doing some promotion, doing a lot of reading, which is why I'm talking about this, because I'm going to spend a lot of time reading books that I haven't had the time to, because I find it very difficult to read while I'm writing. Number one, I don't want to be distracted by someone else's voice. And I don't want to start copying without realizing, not copying their material, but copying the tone or whatever. So I want my voice to be mine, so I don't want that distraction. So I have a ton of books to catch up on, and I'm looking forward to that. And relaxing and enjoying my surroundings. And I just love it here. I love it. Did I mention I live in San Juan, Puerto Rico?
Yes, you have mentioned it at least one time. I am so jealous of you. Well, tell us.
It's a great place. It is a great place.
Yes, it's a great place. I'm just pulling your leg.
I know.
Oh, yeah, give us your social media. How can we connect with you? How do we follow you?
Okay, the first place I would direct people to is my author website, which is robertkarlauthor.com. And I do have information about my books, and I have reviews posted there and things like that. And every month, I give away a $100 Amazon gift card. It's a random drawing by Rafflecopter. You can enter every day, no purchase necessary. Just go to the site, you type in your email address and your name, and that's it. You just click enter. And I'm not collecting email addresses. I'm not sending people, spam, or I don't want to call it spam, or I'm not sending them anything. I'm just letting people enter for the sake of entering. And I actually like doing it. And people are thrilled when I notify them that they're the winner.
I just know they are. I would be.
Well, at least once a month, I get an exciting day letting someone know you've got $100 to spend on anything you want at Amazon. So that's robertkarlauthor.com. On Twitter, it's just Karl. And on Twitter, I'm much more active. I spent 20 years not tweeting. I created an account back when Twitter first started. I tweeted twice. I absolutely hated it. And I never even looked at it again from, I think, 2007 till 2021. So, And then when I wanted to start promoting the books, I started tweeting again. Anyway, I'm more political on there, so I tell people what I'm thinking about politics of the day, about all the don't say gay nonsense that you hear up there, not to mention the problems with the mass shootings and everything that goes on in the United States, breaking my heart. But that's Twitter or Karl, and on Instagram, it's Robert_Karl_NPR. And on Facebook, it's Robert Karl, but I don't do a whole lot on Facebook these days. But that's me. So I love getting messages from readers. I have my email listed on my website, so you can just click and send me a message. It's robert.karl.author@gmail.com. But I don't expect anybody to memorize that. So if you go to robertkarl.author.com, you'll get a link to it. But I love hearing from people, and I also love when people take a picture of my book somewhere where they are located. So I have pictures of my books all over the world, and it's a lot of fun to do, and it's a lot of fun to hear from people who have taken my books on vacation, where they live, in some exotic location, and they send me a snapshot of my book. And that gives me a real thrill to let me know that my book is getting around the world.
Well, before I let you go, let me say this. Let me tell you something. Your book is getting around the world because there's this hot boy in the islands just showing his book all over. And I'm saying, yeah. I need to really go to that island and find that boy, and we can have a reading together.
He's wonderful. His name is James, and he's about ready to graduate with a degree in fashion design. He is very talented, not to mention he's gorgeous, and he likes to pose with my books. And I love seeing him posing with my books. But I want to do one thing that's really important before we sign off, and I want to propose a toast. I want to propose a toast to you.
Me?
And I want to say to Wyatt, may your future be as bright as the pot of gold at the end of the LGBTQ plus rainbow. So thank you to you. Cheers to you. And
all I can say is,
so that is my rainbow toast to Wyatt O'Brien Evans. Thank you, my friend.
All I can say is, Tito, give me a tissue, Tito. Where are you? Where are you when I need a tissue? But in all seriousness, Mr. Robert A. Karl, thank you for the toast. Thank you for gracing Wyatt. I love it. You have an open invitation to come back anytime.
Thank you. I'm very thrilled, and you're welcome to come to Club Sanctuary anytime as well. See you soon. Thank you again.
Have a good one.
Thank you. You too.
So there you have it. You can find the official Wyatt podcast page at WyattEvans.com, the go-to destination for LGBTQ plus news, features, commentary, and entertainment. WyattEvans.com is visited by more than 100 countries on the regular. All I can say to that is, hey, baby. And at WyattEvans.com, you will find my smoking hot, HAWT hot, Nothing Can Tear Us Apart series of novels. The brand spanking new installment is Shattered. I say it, Shattered. And look, y'all, Shattered is chock full of masculine romance, danger, intrigue, action, passion, and heaping helpings of erotica and plain old down-home nastiness. Now, if you want to be a guest on Wyatt, or you got some feedback or, comments, email me at WyattOnAir@gmail.com. Now, I'm all across social media. Here's my social media, poof, for you to peruse. I'm on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. It's right there for you to peruse, right there. So until next time, y'all, woof, goddammit, woof, 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 woof.